Hello and welcome. You're watching BTS with me, Sakshi Batra. This is Behind the Scenes, a special offering on Business Today television, a show where we share a sneak peek into the latest issue of the Business Today magazine with all our viewers. And joining me on this show is Mr. Alokesh Bhattacharyya. He's the managing editor of the Business Today magazine. Also joining in is my colleague Nidhi Singhal, senior editor of the magazine. Well, welcome to both of you, and thank you so much for taking the time out for this discussion. And now to share a sneak peek and to showcase the first look of this cover issue that we've got, and you can see Raymond on the top of the cover, Gautam Singhania. We'll be talking in detail about all of this as to why this is the cover story this time around. But let me kickstart this discussion with you, Alokesh, to help me understand, and to all the viewers as well, what can really be expected from this issue. What are the key stories that we have done here?
Thank you, Sakshi. In fact, it's a very good issue. And apart from the cover story, and there is a story on the recovery agents. Remember the recovery agents? We used to have a lot of trouble with them, about a decade ago. They're back. But aside
Okay.
from that, I think what I really urge our readers to read is one of the stories which talks about teachers in the edtech companies who have become millionaires because they are drawing salaries in the lakhs, right? And so they've
Yeah.
become rich by just being teachers, which is something you couldn't have imagined earlier, and even now probably in schools and colleges. But if you're in a edtech and you were in the right place at the right time, you are rich. You're really earning a lot of money. Aside from that, we've got some really great stories. There is one that Nidhi has done, which we'll talk about jobs
Yeah.
that are going to come as India goes ahead in its semiconductor push, right? Then there's a story on how the Manipal healthcare deal was struck with Temasek and what that means for India's healthcare industry. There's an interview with the CEO of Indian Hotels, it's Taj Hotels, which is another great one. Then there is something called T Hub, which is coming up in Hyderabad, right? Which is about sort of an incubator, but it is not a single incubator. It encourages other incubators and accelerators to come together and basically, encourage the startup ecosystem over there. That's a very good
Okay.
organization. It's doing some good work. It's a great story over there. And of course, there's the cover story on Raymond, which is itself also a very good story. So lots of stuff to
Of
read.
course, of course. A lot of things for viewers to really take note of. Several industries, sectors, and interesting stories really covered. There's definitely a lot to take in. But let me just kickstart then this discussion with the Raymond story as well, which is our cover story this time around. Help our viewers understand how is Gautam Singhania really stitching in a new strategy for the company and really looking at this turnaround, a comeback of sorts that we've expected.
The thing about Raymond is that we associate it with that Raymond shop. The shop that we see everywhere. You see it in malls, you see it in your towns, small towns. Go to any reasonably, large town in India, you'll find a Raymond shop there. They've got 1,400 of those stores in the country. But
Yes.
Raymond also has other businesses which are equally, well known. They have a B2B business in which they supply garment, they supply fabric as well as ready-made garments to global brands. They now
Yeah.
have a very strong real estate business. So, instead of buying a Raymond shirt, you might as well buy a Raymond apartment, right? And they've also been in the business of auto components and engineering
Okay.
files for very long.
Okay.
And they
Mm-hmm.
had an FMCG business which they very recently sold off to Godrej Consumer Products, right?
Mm.
So it's a quite a diversified organization, and for an organization that is so much well known, Gautam Singhania is a very famous person. The name
Yes.
Raymond is also pretty well known, but actually the company never reached $1 billion of consolidated revenue, despite
Yeah.
being in existence for almost 100 years. Right, it's a
Mm.
98-year-old organization, and FY23, the March fiscal that just concluded, is the first fiscal in which Raymond crossed $1 billion in consolidated revenues. That was actually quite a spectacular comeback from the time of the pandemic when it had plunged to losses. Right, its profits went down, debts were up. So from that moment, when in the pandemic the retail stores were closed and they had manufacturing, so they couldn't shut down their factories. So they had a lot of
Mm.
trouble, and the trouble and that angst can be seen and you will feel it when you read the not just the story but the interview of
Yeah.
Gautam Singhania that
Yeah.
goes with it. He says this very interesting thing, saying that success is relative. The more the success, the more the relatives. right?
Yeah.
And when there is less success, those relatives go away. So there was this bank that refused to roll over a 5 crore loan for a
Yeah.
company, the organization that has 5,000, 6,000 crores of revenue.
Wow.
5 crore ka loan they refused to roll over during the pandemic because they were scared that they won't get the money back. Obviously,
Right.
they got the money back, but now those guys are
Mm.
not getting any more business from Singhania
Mm.
because he's not a guy who forgets. I think he makes it
Yeah.
very
Yeah.
clear in his interview. Real estate
Yeah.
has really been the star for Raymond. They have a land bank in Thane, which is about
Okay.
120 acres. So they've leveraged it. They sold a little part of it a few years ago,
Mm.
and now
Mm.
they have got themselves into the real estate business, and they've done very well. The first apartment that they've got, the first two sets of two projects that they've created, they've got more than 80% bookings. And in the first project, they've handed over, they've opened for possession 900 of the 3,000 apartments 2 years ahead of
Mm.
the RERA deadline that they had. So the
Mm.
deadline was December 2024, and they delivered the apartments in 2022 December. 10th December, which happens to be Singhania's daughter Niharika's 17th birthday last year. So
Okay.
a lot of symbolism and a lot of action there, and he has also hired a good set of very, very strong leaders in the last 3, 4 years,
Mm.
including Atul Singh
Mm-hmm.
from Coca-Cola as the vice chairman. He's got a new lifestyle business head in Sunil Kataria, who used to head, the India and SAARC business of Godrej Consumer. Then he's got a new CFO, and so it's a whole new ball game that they're playing, and they look pretty strong. The growth has been quite very, very, very strong.
Okay, very, very interesting stuff right there. And, interestingly, you pointed out a whole host of other businesses that are lesser known for all the people out there. So, what's going to be the key focus area for the company going ahead? And can they continue to drive this kind of a growth that they've seen in fiscal year 2023?
See, even fiscal 24, see in 24, the key challenge, they will face some challenges, of course. As far as see in the apparel business, we couldn't buy any shirts or outfits during the pandemic because everything was closed. So there was a lot of pent up demand, and there was this psychological angst that people had that I'm not able to spend. So we've seen that in various industries, right? The
Yeah,
explosion of the
yeah,
pent up demand. This happened across real estate, motorcycles, cars, and apparel as well. So this huge
yeah.
demand for pent up demand that was there may not be
Hmm.
there anymore going forward
Hmm.
because that is exhausted. So now the business
Hmm.
will have to run on its own merit, and while that is not such a bad thing, the thing is that the demand will be less, and so some analysts expect a little bit of a fall in FY24, but maybe the apparel growth will return in the following fiscal in FY25. But the interesting thing is, see, with only one project that is live and another two projects that they're doing in real estate, it is already the third largest business of the Raymond Group, right? And after their land bank, if you whatever land bank you have, you can't milk it forever, right? At some point, that is going to be exhausted. So then they are getting into joint development with other people in Maharashtra, so that way they'll grow. So their real estate CEO, he told me that they are getting close to 270, 200 projects offers on a regular basis, and they're evaluating 5 to 7. So they might do 4 to 6 deals in a year. That is good enough to keep their growth going as long as the real estate market doesn't face another downturn. But it has gone. Real estate market itself has just got out of a downturn about a couple of years ago. You can expect an upcycle to be there for at least 5 6 years. If they're going to do that,
Sure.
real estate is going to become likely to become pretty big. So
Hmm.
I asked Singhania that what if the real estate business becomes bigger than the Raymond apparel and fabric and all. He
Correct,
says, "So what?
correct,
Who
correct.
cares? Let it grow.
Yes.
You know, as
Yeah.
long as my cake is growing, which side is white chocolate, which side is dark chocolate, what do I care? The business is growing.
Huh.
It's all
Yeah.
so the whole nature of the business is undergoing a transformation, and going forward, we can expect a lot of action from unexpected places."
That's pretty interesting the way Raymond has really shaped up, and now I hope that it becomes a complete man with all these verticals really firing on all cylinders at this point in time for sure. Interesting takeaways. Thank you very much, Alokesh, for bringing that to all our viewers as well. Let me just go across to Nidhi now. She's also written a very interesting story on the semiconductor space. Semiconductor issue we all know has been there, in the headlines, in the newsroom discussions, and on the debates as well as to what is really going to be happening right there. And of course, India as a nation, we've been talking about how we want to take a lead there and become a hub for semiconductor manufacturing. Help me, Nidhi, understand it from the perspective of job opportunity in the semiconductor industry. If this is going to be the next big industry that is going to come up in India, how big is the job opportunity in this industry going to be like?
Thank you, Sakshi. Sakshi, as you captured nicely, that we all understand how important semiconductors are today. And
Hmm.
realizing the importance of semiconductors, every nation, be it US, European Union, Japan, even China, which is the leader, everybody's really pushing in a lot of money to build more
Yeah.
fabs. And fabs are the factories which manufacture these chips, these semiconductors. But the
Yeah.
challenge is people are putting in money, they can build the fabs, but where's the talent? That's the biggest question. When you look about the professionals that work in this space, they are mostly engineers. Electronics is the basis on which they like. As in electronics engineering is what these jobs require. And in this also, there are three areas. One is the R&D, which is like when you design a chip. Then it goes to manufacturing, which
Hmm.
we call it as fabs. And the third part is where they are actually, we call it ATMP, where they're actually packaged, cut and packaged before they go into devices like phones and laptops and all. So all the three areas,
Hmm.
I would not call it as industry, but sectors, segments within this industry, they
Yeah.
all require engineers. And we all know who's the biggest, which is the biggest country where we have engineers, which is India. If you look
Sure.
at some numbers in India, every year we have around 2.5 million students enrolling for engineering. And if you look at
Hmm.
high paying jobs, there are hardly any, like a few lakhs, 2 to 3 lakhs.
Hmm.
What is
Hmm.
interesting is students that don't realize that this is a very big potential sector which they should eye, because right now the demand is low, but like in next 10 years, or maybe I should say by 2030, there would be additional
Hmm.
1 million jobs that would be created in the sector globally, not just India. Yeah,
Yeah.
please.
So, how is India really going to leverage this whole space? If you could expound upon that too.
So the government is really focused on that. Along with building the fab ecosystem in India, they have introduced a couple of courses which would be like available at IITs and affiliated institutes with AICTE. And even IITs are looking at introducing their own courses. So obviously not at that wide scale, but the beginning is there is a intent, and courses are available now. So students have to
Hmm.
enroll. And what is interesting is Vedanta is very bullish about setting up the first semiconductor and display fab in India. So within the article, we actually interacted with the leaders at the company, Akash Hebar and David Reed. And David Reed has a
Hmm.
wide experience of working in this industry. He would be taking charge of Vedanta semiconductor fab in India. So he gave an in-depth. He actually explained very nicely that they are looking to get experts from abroad to start with, but it is that engineering talent in India that they are going to mirror in the future. So it's like a very technical industry. You cannot just simply think that okay, I can just learn something while studying the course and get on the job. Semiconductors is all about learning on the job.
Got that. Understood that. Alukesh, would you want to like add on to that? Because I wanted to. We've done so many stories in our previous issues about the IT sector and the jobs there, the kind of offers that have been getting delayed, the kind of offers that they have been stagnant at the freshers level. How does this get shaped up? Going forward from here.
See, this is a global opportunity. It's not only
Hmm.
about the semiconductor industry in India, and that is what we need to understand. See, the way
Yeah.
electronics and the use of chips in all our products, right? Maybe people don't realize that your washing machine also has a chip. Your refrigerator, smart refrigerator has a chip. Your smart TV has a chip. Maybe more than one chip. Nidhi will know better than me. I'm saying a chip. She might be thinking, "Ye kya bol rahe hain?" There will be more chips. 500 chips in a car, imagine. And then there is the Internet of Things, which is basically nothing but chips embedded in every sort of conceivable device that you can think of. Who's going to make all these chips? The demand for chips to be used in everything, right? In the internet of everything, and everything is going to be connected. That demand is exploding like nobody's business across the world. Which is why, if you see, while India has come up with a scheme that's saying that, we want to start a semiconductor industry and this and that, we are far behind because the countries like the US and Taiwan and Japan and others have been doing it for forever,
Way too long.
right? And
Yes.
they are also investing the kind of incentives that India is rolling out. And Nidhi can correct me if I'm wrong, but America
Hmm.
is giving 5 times that incentive to expand its own semiconductor industry. Where is America going to get all the people from to work in those industries? It has to come from
True.
somewhere. America doesn't produce enough graduates to be doing that, right? So
Yes.
students in India need to understand that. Those who are watching the show, you need to understand that, the jobs in the semiconductor industry is something that's going to be long term. It's not something that has come and is going to go away. It's not a fad that's going to pass away. It's going to be there long term. You can work in India, you can work somewhere else, you can work in India for outside, companies and outsiders. So it's a very interesting new kind of scope that is emerging in a big way, because many countries are offering incentives and really ramping up their semiconductor business in a big way.
And to add to it, generative AI won't take away those jobs. We are scared that artificial intelligence is threatening a lot of jobs. This is one sector that won't be impacted. Only the demand is going to grow over the roof.
Grow, and newer skills will be needed, and that is what the students of today really need to focus on. In case you really are looking forward to a job of the future, this perhaps is one sector which will have that for you. Thank you so much, Alokesh and Nidhi, for being with us and discussing all these insights, what can be expected from this current issue. Very, very exciting stuff for all our viewers also to grab a chance. So please do go out there and get your copies, because they are already out on the stands. And until then, we'll see you next time. But do stay tuned on to Business Today Television to catch all the updates from the world of business and stock markets. Until then, thanks for tuning in.